Welcome to the Academy, a series focused on the basics of Star Wars: The Old Republic. World bosses are fun challenges larger groups can take on in the open world in Star Wars: The Old Republic. World bosses used to offer very little in the way of rewards, but now all world bosses drop a decent crate of endgame gear and 25 tech fragments for each person who is in the group. World bosses are one of the few types of content in the game that players can take on as a group at lower levels, as the other large group content, Operations, is reserved for high level. World bosses are also great as you can take them on with a group of up to 24 players, the largest group content in the game. In this video, we'll be going over my tips on how to go world boss hunting and a general list of all the world bosses in the game. If you want to learn more about each individual world boss, I'll be making a series of separate videos for each one, so just search for their name in my YouTube channel if you want to learn more. Let's jump into the tips. So first off, these world bosses cannot be soloed. They'll cause your companion to tremble in fear, and your companion will not even be able to help you during this fight that's designed for multiple players. It's recommended to bring a group of 4 or more players for the world bosses below level 50, and bigger groups for the other world bosses. Once you have a group started, if you want to invite more than 4 players to your group, right-click your character portrait and choose Convert to Ops Group to make the group hold more players. This is how you create an operations group. If you found the location where the boss should be, but the boss has already been defeated and isn't around, you can open your map and choose a different instance from the drop-down on the bottom right of the map and see if the boss is available in another instance. Use the heroic and daily shuttles to get to the bosses and planets quicker. If you're planning a world boss day for you and your guild or your group of friends, you can save time by placing your different characters near the world bosses before the event. Then using guild summons to summon your group to the bosses so they don't have to travel. When you're done the first boss, log out, log into your next character who is sitting near the next world boss, get invited to your group again, and summon your group. If you really wanted to attend on your first character, you can log back out and into your main character and have another group member at the next world boss who is summoned summon you again. Summoning requires that your guild has a flagship and that you have permission to access the guild funds, so free-to-play and preferred players cannot summon others, and have guild permissions to use summons. Summons send out an invitation to all players in your group to join you at your location. It's a short invitation, so give your group a warning before and when you summon so they know to accept it. If you're doing an on-the-fly world boss tour and your characters have the ability to summon, it's fastest as a group leader to simply log out as soon as you defeat the first boss, log into another character, heroic travel from the solo panel, and run to the boss and summon your group. That way, you'll always have your summon available from cooldown by switching characters. Make sure to set group leader or assistant leader to a player who understands you'll need to be re-invited to the group before you log off. Otherwise, you have to try and figure out who randomly got the group leader. If you're not summoning, I have a map for every single world boss on SWTOR.com. That's also linked in the description of this video. You'll want to show the map to your friends so they know where to go more easily. You can take low-level players along, as long as they meet the minimum suggested level or a little below. When on the planet, you'll be scaled down, so lower-level characters are not at a big disadvantage compared to high-level characters when fighting world bosses. You can even take lower-level characters if they don't mind dying. Low-level characters will need a ship to be summoned. Players who have not earned their ship will not be able to accept summons. If you're doing Coruscant or Dromund Kaas and inviting from general chat, you may want to instead share the nearby heroic and have players run to it. If you're sharing in general chat on the other planets, most players will have their ship. If you enjoy these single boss fights, there are also operations at a high level that have only one boss, that are not covered in this guide. This includes the Golden Fury, also known as Toboro's Courtyard on Makeb, the Colossal Monolith on Ziost, Hive of the Mountain Queen on Ossus, the Secret Dreadful Entity and the Hateful Entity bosses, the Limited Time Xeno-Analyst from the Gree event, and the Eyeless Rakghoul world boss from the Limited Time Thorn event, the Rakghoul event. These bosses are sometimes called world bosses, but are technically single boss operations. The biggest difference is that free-to-play and preferred can do world bosses, but free-to-play and preferred cannot do operations. So those are my tips for hunting down these world bosses with a group. Hopefully it should save you some time, so let me show you some other cool stuff related to world bosses. So first off, if you're looking for a few extra rewards, there's a weekly quest from the Operations Terminal in the middle of the supplies section of the fleet that you can pick up that rewards you with a small amount of credits and XP. This quest, the Priority Targets weekly quest, will send you out to hunt down 3 of the listed bosses, and the quest is shareable, so one person can pick it up and share it with your group. There's a second one-time quest related to world bosses that's also located on the fleet, and this is called the Aratech Coral Mount quest. While most of the bosses do not have any quests directly related to them, there is a one-time quest available in the Galactic Trade Network section of the fleet, in the cages, near the speeder vendor that you can pick up. To earn a unique mount, the quest will tell you to defeat both the Hoth world bosses, the Belsavis world boss, and the difficult Voss world boss 3 times each. If you plan on fighting Snowblind, Gargath, the Primal Destroyer, or the Nightmare Pilgrim, you may want to pick this quest up first. It's also shareable, so you can pick it up and share it with your group. And lastly, there is a title and achievement related to defeating each of the kind of earliest world bosses. And the title will be Big Game Hunter, so you need to defeat all the basic level 50 world bosses, Nightmare Pilgrim, and Dreadtooth, but you'll have to fight Dreadtooth on all 3 of his most difficult modes, including 10 stack Dreadtooth. If you manage to do that, you'll get a legacy title and achievement for all of your characters on your server. Now I'll give you a short overview about the world bosses. So the first 2 world bosses are on Coruscant and Dromund Kaas. The Coruscant one will be called SDO, he's a big robot or droid. He's only going to be available Republic side, meant for low level, but he's surprisingly hard, so you'll want to get a bigger group going for this one. On Dromund Kaas, it's called the First. It's located in the water area of Dromund Kaas, and this one's not quite as hard, but you'll still need a bigger group for it. Next up on Taris, on Republic side, is the Subject Alpha Rakghoul, and don't forget, if you need any maps for these, go to the link in the description of this video. This one's quite easy, small group. Fun little mechanics, I'll let you learn about those yourself. And on Imperial side, Balmorra, there will be Grandfather, a really big Bormu. So where it gets weird is that Balmorra Republic side does not have a world boss. However, Taris Imperial side does. So that one is called the Ancient Worm, a really, really big worm that's triggered if you right-click a blue body you find on the ground. On Nar Shaddaa, both factions can take on the Battledroid R4GL deep in Nar Shaddaa. Next up is Tatooine, the Trapjaw world boss, which many players often find by accident when they see a glowing blue crate dragon skull in the middle of the Dune Sea, surrounded by Jawas. Maybe you shouldn't have clicked that. That's too bad, you discovered the boss anyway. We've got the Ulgo Siegebreaker droid, a large robot droid wandering around in the river of Alderaan, accessible to both factions just like the Tatooine boss. There's the Rogue Cartel Warbot, available on Quesh. He's got a lot of lightning. On Hoth, there's actually 2 different world bosses, and this is where the world bosses start kind of getting more high level, a little harder. There's a Gargath and Snowblind. Snowblind is a lot of fun. A very cool mechanic happens when you fight that one. On Belsavis, there's the Primal Destroyer. On Corellia, there's Lucky the Rancor, and he actually has a fun achievement related to him. If you fight him and win, you get the Lucky title. If you fight him and die, you get the Unlucky title. And on Voss, there's Nightmare Pilgrim, which is an incredibly hard world boss, which requires a lot of learning the mechanics by your team, and you're going to want to bring roughly a group of 16 players into this one. Make sure to read up about it before you go in. So those were the bosses that were basically available at or near the launch of the game, but there are some more interesting world bosses that have been added over the years that you can go find. So the first one is the Section X Dreadtooth boss. At its base, this world boss is pretty easy. You can take it on with a fairly small group. I'd say at least start with 6 geared up players. The more you have, the better. And it drops a really cool cosmetic item that you might want to fight him just for that. However, there's a way to make this boss even stronger, and its stronger modes are a really good challenging fight, and they're part of a greater secret quest that you can learn about. There's the Lance Squadron Command Unit, a giant walker you may have seen on Yavin 4 while doing your dailies or exploring there. This one really as hard because it's a lag monster, so you'll need a really big group to take on this one. A very secret boss that also resides on Yavin 4 is the Ancient Threat boss, and not only is this incredibly difficult and needs a very large and organized group, you also have to go through a bunch of secret steps just to be able to access it and summon it. The Worldbreaker Monolith is a fun little fight that you can take on with a group on Zyos. Very neat looking fight. There's Kil'Cik and R8-X8, which are 2 world bosses located on Ossus. They were very important when they came out, but groups rarely do them now. There's also a less well-known world boss called the Dread Pirate Carvoy, who's hidden deep on Mek Shah that you can fight. Nothing too interesting for this one, but it is a very high-level world boss. Lastly, there are 5 event world bosses at the moment, and I'm sure more and more will be added over the years to both the planets and to the events. For the Gree event, there is Surgok'k Gravak'k, and for the Rakghoul event, depending on which planet the Rakghoul event is taking place on, there will be either Shellshock, Toxin, and Plaguehorn. I hope this video helped you learn about all the different world bosses in Star Wars: The Old Republic and how to take them on with a big group. If you want to learn more about each of these individual bosses, don't forget to visit the link in the description of this video to go to the written version of this guide. If you want to show your support for this series and ensure the future of these in-depth guides, visit SWTOR.com/support. If you want to have similar Star Wars: The Old Republic videos show up on your YouTube homepage, subscribe to this channel. And as always, may the Force be with you.